Hello, my name is Caleb Boersma, and this is my Week 7 energy presentation. So to start off, we have a breakdown of the countries I chose for this project and their main sources of energy. So the two countries I chose were Sweden and Japan. So in Sweden, the two main uses of power are nuclear and hydroelectric. And for Japan, it would be nuclear and fossil fuels. And I have links to the websites I use for that down below. So to start off, we have Sweden. According to the IEA, the country has adopted an energy and climate framework with ambitious long-term and interim goals, including a target of 100% renewable energy and electricity generation by 2040. I think that is extremely bold, and I personally don't know if that's even possible, but it's good that they're trying that. Um, Sweden's electricity is mainly produced by nuclear, hydro, and wind, and is nearly 100% free from using fossil fuels as a source of fuel. They actually export a lot of the electricity they produce to other countries near them. They are also trying to stop using nuclear power altogether, which is quite the task. Sweden's energy policies give preference to technology-neutral measures and market mechanisms, with the aim to reduce emissions in a cost-effective way. Carbon taxation in particular has been an effective driver of decarbonization, and Sweden has showed that high environmental taxes can be combined with sustained economic growth. So Sweden puts a high tax on the amount of pollution that companies put out, so they're incentivized to invest in cleaner ways of electricity generation. And apparently it's working out for them. Next up, we have Japan. Japan's energy policy has been dominated in recent years by its efforts to overcome the fallout from the 2011 earthquake and the subsequent Fukushima nuclear accident. Since the earthquake, Japan has gradually been shutting down all of its nuclear power plants. With the closure of these power plants, Japan has moved to using significantly more fossil fuels by importing them. Faced with these challenges, the government of Japan has revised its energy policy in recent years to focus on further diversifying its energy mix, which means less use of fossil fuels and more reliance on renewable energy, restarting nuclear power plants when declared safe, and curbing carbon emissions. So, Japan imports a lot more of its fossil fuels and oil, so it doesn't produce a lot, and they don't even use a lot of nuclear power anymore because of the accidents that have happened and earthquakes. It's pretty dangerous. Building on these plans, Japan has outlined ambitious goals to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 26% between 2013 and 2030. If you ask me, that sounds a lot more realistic than 100% carbon neutral or whatever Sweden was trying to do. That seemed what Japan is trying to accomplish seems a lot more realistic to me. 26% is actually a lot, and it takes a lot to get that number, and I definitely see that being possible with their time frame that they want to do. How energy is produced in Sweden. So they produce energy mostly with nuclear and hydroelectric. And to start off with nuclear, according to the NEI, they split uranium atoms in a process called fission. As a result, unlike other energy sources, nuclear power plants do not release carbon or pollutants like nitrogen and sulfur oxides into the air. The process of fission is continuous, and the reactors are filled with a solid uranium fuel. When the reactor is started, the atoms in the uranium will split, releasing heat and neutrons. The neutrons hit other uranium atoms and cause them to split, generating more heat. This heat is then used to spin a turbine, which is how the energy is produced. And next up, we have hydroelectric. A dam is built to seize water from escaping an area and then is funneled into a tunnel system that flows downward in the dam. After this, according to the USGS, gravity causes it to fall through the penstock inside the dam. At the end of the penstock, there's a turbine propeller, which is turned by moving water. The shaft from the turbine goes up into the generator, which produces the power. And I included a little visual down there. You can see how the dam works. Pretty interesting. How energy is produced in Japan. They have nuclear and fossil fuels. I just repeated what I said about nuclear from Sweden. And for fossil fuels, Japan uses mostly fossil fuels as their main way of generating electricity. They use coal, oil, and natural gas, oil being the leader in use. They have to import a large portion of their fuel. Energy sources to be used in the future. Sweden has taken great steps to change the way they produce electricity by shifting to greener means of production. They are currently seeking to be carbon neutral entirely, which means they already focus on changing energy consumption. If they were to diversify how they produce energy, I would say they could focus on utilizing more wind energy. They have great geographic locations that would be great for wind generation. Japan is also changing the way it produces energy. They took a big hit after a major earthquake back in 2011 that forced them to close down most of their nuclear power plants, shifting them to use more fossil fuels. Japan also has to import a lot of its means of fuel, which they will not have to do if they continue to slowly open nuclear power plants and also perhaps focus on using hydroelectric power. And there are the references for my project, and that's it.